Hey everyone, this is Jen and you're watching BPD Woman. On this channel, you will learn how to live more effectively with your borderline personality disorder. My goal is to offer you positive-based solutions to problem solving, the things that those of us with borderline find the most problematic. My goal is to help you achieve your goals, whether that's in increased emotional regulation, career, finance, relationship goals. I impart my experience, wisdom, research, and life experience living with the disorder, while also heavily relying on dialectical behavior therapy skills to help you reach your goals. While I am not a therapist or a doctor or a psychologist, I can answer one question that all of those folks cannot, which is, what is it like to live with borderline personality disorder? And while those folks may have the degree, they don't have the disorder. And thus, I offer a bit of a more unique perspective in helping you along the way than they might be able to. I produce about 3 to 5 videos each week, and all are often sometimes very new content, including interpersonal effectiveness skills and my own life experience, and I focus on DBT skills as well. If you are a family member or someone who is just interested in learning more about BPD from a positive lens, then you are also in the right place, and I have a playlist just for you entitled Tools and Resources Vids for the Family. I'll throw up a link. So if that all sounds good to you, please hit subscribe and the bell below so you never miss a beat. I produce, as I said, anywhere from 3 to 5 videos each week. All right, let's get started. I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone. I know that we're not out of this pandemic, obviously, yet. We've got a long haul ahead of us, but here is to renewed hope and positivity, and we can treat it as a fresh slate. So today I want to talk about something that I think probably most of us, if not all of us, I would say maybe all of us, even as humans, but even more so those of us with BPD have had to cope with, which is what to do when someone doesn't like you and how that really feels amplified when you have BPD. And so that's what I want to talk about on today's video. How to cope when people don't like you when you have BPD. And I'm going to examine some surprising reasons why people may not like you and why that's actually a good thing. So I'd like to start off with a story about a recent news article that I read about Daisy Ridley. Daisy Ridley is a young English actor. I believe she's about 24, 25 years old. She starred as Rey in the new Star Wars trilogy, right? This beautiful, talented, awesome girl. She kicked ass in that movie. She was super strong. I mean, at 24, could you imagine? I mean, at 24, I could barely get it together to watch a movie, let alone like carry the movie, right? Okay. So I read an article recently where, you know, with a lot of these Star Wars actors, you know, it can be hard to keep getting cast. You know, take the original Star Wars, like Mark Hamill, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher. Harrison Ford's career blew up. And while Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill have had a career subsequently, until, of course, Carrie Fisher's passing, they weren't like the big, huge Hollywood stars that Harrison Ford turned out to be. And so I think you're seeing this a little bit now, like with John Boyega and Daisy Ridley. They've kind of are struggling to find some other roles now that they've had this huge defining role, while Adam Driver, who starred on Girls and was the lead villain, he's gone on to really start becoming very successful. And so I was reading this article about her, and, you know, she's beautiful. She's in like this beautiful gown. I don't know if it was for Vanity Fair, but it was like this really glossy photo spread. And she said in this article how she had been labeled intimidating and aggressive, and that people had were put off by her. So I'm reading this article, and in reading this article, there's like this huge comment section. So I started to read these comments, and they were, you know, a lot of them were like negative as fuck. You know, they were like, well, it's probably your problem. Like, well, if people are saying you're intimidating, like, you better change that. Well, it's probably something to do with you, sweetie. And I was like, no, this is sexist bullshit right here. So the fuck what? You're intimidating. So I wrote this like response, and I was like, and I hope she reads it, you know, and I was like, girl, I was like, intimidating and aggressive is what got you the lead in the Star Wars trilogy. I said, you kick ass, you're awesome, and we need more people like you, power to the people, something like that, right? Something really positive. And so like 80 people liked my comment and maybe like, I don't know, 10 people disliked it. But obviously the majority of people supported my feelings. And so that's a really good sign. And so I'm like thinking like, why are people beating up on this poor girl? You haven't read anything about her. She doesn't like do drugs. She doesn't like, she's not reckless. She's not like being a jerk, right? Like there's lots of other celebrities you could say the same thing. And so this got me thinking, it kind of prompted these ideas I was already having about this video about why people may not like you and what that has to do with who you are, how to internalize that, and how that may or may not play into your BPD. I can say that I definitely relate to Daisy's problem, as it were, right? I have definitely been told several times in my life, you're aggressive, you're intimidating, people will start liking me and like things are going really well, and then for some reason the relationship doesn't last. And I mean, relationships can fall apart, relationships can fall apart for any number of reasons, least of which can be your BPD, right? Although obviously with merit, there have been relationships dissolve on my front because of some of my problematic borderline behaviors, or I cut people off, or I started these huge arguments, right? So not all of my relationships have dissolved simply because I'm aggressive or intimidating, which, by the way, I don't think is a bad thing, okay? So I started to think more about this, and it's like, over the years, like, oh, maybe I should like, be less smart, or maybe I should, be like dumb myself down so that I can be more popular with other people. And then, as I got older and older, and as I continue to get older and older, I was like, no, fuck that noise. Like, I'm going to be who I am. That's who I like. It became more important to me to please myself with who I am than to please other people with who I am, in the hopes that they may or may not want to be my friend. And I'm so sorry if you're intimidated by that, but my job is not to put everyone at ease 24/7. So you're just going to have to learn how to deal with that, and the whole cancel culture and like the snowflakes and all of this nonsense. I'm sorry, like, you're gonna have to toughen up. You're in the real world, and people that don't like you, well, that's just tough shit. Like, God forbid you actually have something terrible to worry about, like the destruction of 9/11 or being involved in World War II. Like, could you imagine someone from either of those time periods worrying about like somebody doesn't like them? Like, tough fucking shit. I'm just trying to survive, right? Okay, so anyway. Several years ago, I was in therapy, and I was bringing this very situation up to my therapist, saying, I wish more people liked me. I don't understand why I'm not keeping my friendships. And she said something very interesting that I had never thought of before. And she said, Jennifer, you are highly intelligent, you're attractive, you're smart, you're outgoing, you're involved in a lot of different things, scuba diving and photography, you're very dynamic. She's like, people are intimidated by that. And I was like, really? Me? Low self-esteem, always worrying, anxious, borderline me? They're intimidated by me? And I was like, okay. And she said that a few other times, but like that really stuck with me. Some people will say things to you in your life and it sticks to you. Well, that one like stuck with me. And for a very long time, I was just convinced that people didn't like me because of my borderline, right? Like that I was too black and white, or that I pushed people away, or that my moods were too unstable for people and they didn't want to be around that. And while that is true, obviously, in many situations, there's something else here that I want everyone to consider. That, listen, when you are asking for what you want, when you are asserting yourself, when you are creating boundaries for yourself, when you are digging your heels in and saying, no, this is who I am, this is what I like, and you're not taking other people's bullshit or abuse anymore, many people will not like that. Okay, they will push back. They will be upset with you. You are changing the status quo. They do not want the status quo to change. It is easier for the status quo to remain the same. And so you're going to get pushback, or they're not going to like you, or you're going to be angry. But the pushback does not mean that you are wrong. All it means is that they're mad. Okay, oh well. Should I spend a lot of time worrying about why they are, or investigating or contemplating why they are mad? I mean, the thing is here, I always say, go to that black and white thinking and then go to that gray thinking, right? How would you think in black and white, and how would you approach this in gray thinking? Depending on the context of your relationship with this person, how close you are to this person, what your relationship status has been with this person. Do you trust them? Are they emotionally safe? Have they been a positive influence? Okay, well then, yeah, listen to a bit of their feedback, but don't absorb all of it. Remember, self-validation is more important. How you feel about yourself is more important. And the more feedback that you get from person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can really start becoming more dysregulated, because now you just have 5 different voices in your head telling you about you, when the voice that really matters is right here. So we have this tendency, those of us with BPD, to see ourselves as non-experts in our own lives, and we turn to other people for validation. We're like, well, I wrote this email, what do you think? Is this email okay, right? Or I said this to him in a text, and now I haven't heard from him. Do you think he's mad at me? Right? We expend so much energy from this worry that really can get us out of control. And I've created a video about obsessive rumination. Check it out, how to kind of break yourself of this worry. And so we forget one thing when we pass along the crown to someone to say, okay, you are the expert in my life, I will turn to you, is that you most likely with BPD are extremely intelligent, dynamic, attractive. You're a go-getter. You are a type A. You are detailed. You show up. You do your commitments. You're extroverted. People are drawn to you, and people do like that, but it could also be a reason why they're intimidated by you. And there's this old saying that, quiet women rarely make the history books. I mean, I'm sure the same could be same for men. Well, it's true, right? Quiet women rarely make the history books. I mean, think of some of your most famous people that were messengers of peace, that, strived for things like the civil rights movement or gay rights or feminist rights movement, just equality, right? In general, all of those civil rights movements, they have one thing in common: equality. And think about some of those leaders, right? Rosa Parks, MLK Jr., think about Harvey Milk, right? Assassinated, right? Or arrested. People were pissed at these people. Why? Because they were going against the status quo. They had a message, they were pushing back, and people did not like that. Now, I'm not obviously comparing myself to a civil rights activist, but what I am saying is that people just will not like you simply for what you stand for. Okay, that's fine. Now, that's hard to manage if you have low self-esteem, right? That's hard to incorporate if you don't trust yourself and your perceptions. And when you have BPD, you've been invalidated so long that you don't even know what your perceptions are anymore. It's hard, should I trust this? Is it raining out? Would you look out the window for me? Can you tell me if it's raining, right? Now, again, as I mentioned, if you are finding that no one likes you, if you're finding that lots of people, if you're finding that 95% of people aren't liking you, or 95% are turning away from you, I mean, look at that introspectively, make some improvements on that. If that's where you want your time to go, it could be worth looking into. Get feedback from one trusted person, but also be careful of the feedback that you enlist. I remember that when I was in one of my DBT classes, and don't forget, DBT counselors and psychologists, they have their own emotional problems. Many people that become helpers, in the helping profession, so cops, military, police, hospital workers, therapists, they also come from sometimes traumatic backgrounds, which prompts them to get into these helping professions, right? They've been hurt or traumatized, now they want to give back. Well, the thing is that sometimes you may not have the most emotionally stable therapist, and that's another video I'm going to talk about, when DBT starts to become untherapeutic and dangerous rather than therapeutic. But anyway, so I was in a DBT class. We were going over our homework. We had the 2 psychologists. I'm in a group class of about 15 or so. And I said, I don't understand why I'm not getting I had a dating profile up on OkCupid. And I was like, why aren't people reaching out? We go a few conversations in, and then people don't, the guys don't reply back to me, or we have one date and then I get stood up or whatever. And, the DBT counselor, she said, well, maybe you should have someone look at this is a psychologist, okay, trained in DBT. She goes, well, maybe you should have someone look at your profile, that there's something maybe wrong with it or something that you're saying. And I'm like, wait a minute. Like, you're trying to tell me that there's something probably wrong with me and that I should edit my profile in order to attract someone who's later just going to find out who I am anyways? No. I mean, essentially her message was, well, there's probably something wrong with what you're writing and there's something wrong with you. So you're attracting this bad energy. I'm sorry, but no. That's not helpful. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, even if I had let someone read my profile, edit it, like give their 2 cents, the thing is that while that may attract the buyer in the initial exchange, eventually they're going to find out, right? They're going to know who you are. They're going to catch on. It's not going to be a secret. So why even go through that rigmarole in the first place? There's a few things that you can do to handle and cope with this, because like I said, it still hurts me when people don't want to be my friend. I still struggle with knowing what the proper relationship looks like. I still struggle with, how often should I text my friend? Like, now that we're friends, should I text them every day? No, that's too much. Maybe I should text them every other day, right? Like, I still feel anxious. I mean, it takes probably 6 months to a year of interacting with someone for me to feel pretty like stable. Okay, like now I know their baseline. Now I know if they don't reply for a day, that doesn't mean anything. But initially that can be really difficult. So I still struggle with the same anxieties and wanting people to like me, and I want to be in the group, but again, on the other side of that is I want quality friends. I want quality relationships. Even last night I was wondering, like, why have none of my romantic relationships worked out? Why do they only last 3 to 6 months? And then I just Googled it, like, why do my relationships last 3 months? Not all of my relationships have lasted 3 months, but like, just as a marker. And, hundreds of articles came up, and in the first 50 or so, they didn't even mention anything. I didn't even put in BPD. So, this thing that we're like, a lot of people experience relationships that don't pan out right away has nothing to do necessarily with BPD, right? So there are 3 things. I'm going to share 3 tips with you. Okay, tip number one, yes, look at your behaviors. Look at the BPD behaviors that may be problematic or are either A, attracting the wrong kinds of people, the unhealthy kinds of people, or B, are repelling the good kinds of people or the healthy kinds of people that you would like in your life. Do some introspection, take a look at yourself, see where, you could improve on things, and then make little improvements. But in that process, don't say things to yourself. Try not to say things to yourself like, you're a loser. Oh my God, how could you not get this right? Why are you always a fuck up? That stuff's that's not happy. Just throw those tapes in the toilet and flush it. Okay. 2, it could take a while. Tip 2, it could take a while for you to meet new people. It could take a while for you to develop healthy relationships as you learn to be healthy yourself. And so in that process, be okay with it taking time. And more importantly, be okay with being alone. That's tough, isn't it? It's very tough. Now I really like being alone. I spent Christmas alone. Oh my gosh. And even though I texted with people and I wasn't completely isolated, I loved being alone that day. I really did. So it takes a long time to get to that place, but do small things. Like, one thing that I used to do is I used to just go to a movie by myself, right? You can start small and work yourself incrementally. When I first started just going to a movie by myself, obviously at that point, like 5-6 years ago when I started doing that, 10 years ago, I wasn't at that point ready to spend Christmas Day alone. That happened 10 years later. The point is that you're incrementally trying to build up a comfort level of being alone with yourself and being okay with who you are. And that just feeds right into feeling okay with who you are, your self-esteem, and being okay when people don't like you for being who you are. Oh, well, okay. Be selective. Tip 3, be selective. Being selective is okay. Sure, you might look at your friends' social media and say, oh, wow, they have 500 Facebook friends or like 100 Instagram followers or whatever. But how many of those people are their true friends? How many of those people would show up in the middle of the night and help change a flat tire? probably a very, very small percentage, right? And so quantity doesn't mean quality, and quality doesn't mean quantity, okay? So it's okay to just have 2, 3 close friends. That's fine. And then like 5 acquaintances and then 10 neighbors. You know, it's okay to be selective with what you're allowing in your life. When you go to the grocery store, okay, think about what you have on your grocery list. Is it like high fat, high cholesterol, soda? Is it lard? Is it, you know, pork knuckles? I mean, whatever. Just like, probably not, right? Like your whole list is probably not like these unhealthy food items, although, you know, I order the cookies and I order like the soda and but I also order the lettuce and the tomatoes and the fresh non-processed foods. So you're selective when you go grocery shopping on that small level. Be selective with what you consume with your personal relationships. My name's Jen. You've been watching BPD Woman. We've been talking about how to handle when people don't like you and the surprising reason why people may not like you, which has very little to do. I like how you come in when I'm closing out these videos, my dear. So both my girlfriend here and I, we say Happy New Year. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, until I see you next time, please be effective. Bye-bye.